Hello and welcome to another tier list, this time part 5. You already know all of the rules, and if you don't, episode 1 or part 1 is there and I'll go over all of the rules as to why I did certain things and why I didn't do others. Anyway, part 5 where I rate every single Old School Runescape song, songs with ID 401 to ID 500. Let's get another 100 songs, and I know they don't seem like a lot, but these are actually 100 songs. So first up we have Food for Thought. It's a much more toned down song compared to Dogs of War. It does emulate a certain dryness. It surprisingly does not sound like a desert track, so that is a positive thing actually. Although it does sound like background music, it's a fine song to start off the list. 6 out of 10 B tier. Next up, Malady or Malady? Or something, I don't know the fucking pronunciation of this, and I'm not gonna be bothering looking it up, but it sounds like a weird mix between a wilderness song and a gnome song. It's like somewhat high tension, but with a playful tone to accompany it. Although these playful tones don't always accompany every moment of the song, they do add to the experience of making the song feel much better in what it's trying to convey. It's a 7 out of 10 A tier. Next up, On the Wing, and this song starts with my favorite instrument, the bird tweet. The song starts with just birds chirping, and then introduces this trombone alongside some strings, and it's like the most peaceful, uplifting thing I've ever heard. It's like an entire different identity when it comes to RuneScape songs. Things have a place to breathe while the song slowly illustrates the place to you. It later adds the clarinet to synergize with the trombone, or the other way around. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know which is which, cause I kinda suck at identifying instruments, so yeah. But the song essentially just, definitely has very humble vibes to it. It's the sort of thing you would hear in early console titles. And then the wave sounds hit, my second favorite instrument of course. Overall, if I had to guess where the song plays, I would say, in some forest or somewhere with a lot of, nature and wild animals that is also next to the sea. And well, it plays both in the Enchanted Valley and Pescatarius Enter area, so that actually tracks. But once again, hitting it out of the park, and I must say, I much more enjoy this style of music. Maybe it's because I'm tired of Ian songs, which, to be fair, it has been over 400 of them at this point, but there's just something about the approach that Bond has that makes the songs feel like they have more depthness without needing to throw 100 instruments at the wall. You can listen to all of the parts of the song so much clearer, and that is not something just to do with the amount of instruments that he uses, but with the composition as well. The composition just sounds so much clearer, because despite the MIDI soundtrack in terms of composition, I would say that these songs actually sound quite modern. They sound like they could feel many modern video games out there, So yeah, I much rather have Bond's compositions than Ian's. As for the song specifically, if it hasn't been obvious by now, 10 out of 10 S tier. Next up we have Are The Fairies. It's a toned down magical song. It plays in the cosmic plane, and while the song isn't super bombastic or anything, it does a good job at encapsulating the place it's in. The magical yet very mixed tone between being relaxing or tense really makes for an interesting song. I would place this song at an altar if I didn't know any better, but the cosmic plane is fine enough. I really like the hook though, it's a really catchy hook. Also, it sounds like those early 2000s browser games, so that's an interesting thing. And one last thing, why fairies? I get that the cosmic plane is where you go during the quest after unlocking fairy rings to grab the thing ingredient to make the magic potion for the queen, but I think the name like that would be better, used on actual fairies. Either way, 8 out of 10, A tier. Next up we have Dimension X. The wiki actually lists 4 instruments for this song. It might be actually the most like stripped down song ever. What I find interesting is how tense the song actually is. It's not boring whatsoever, and it knows how to play with the minimalistic style it's going for, using it for its strength rather than weakness. I also found the more bassy sounds to be really good, and the best part is it's not even 8 minutes long. So yes, despite the fact that it is only 4 instruments, it's a 7 out of 10 A tier. Next up we have All's Fairy in Love and War. It's a magical song with a pun, of course. However, it does encapsulate the war part really well, and I love the contrast between the magical tone and the war tone. I actually really enjoy as well the instruments that usually sound magical, but used in a way that is way more tense. It's a pretty good song, honestly, and now I understand why they didn't use We Are The Fairies for the actual fairies, because of course they had a pen in mind. Either way, 8 out of 10 A tier. Next up we have Tomb Raider, and the beginning of the song sounds like a Ian Desert song. And sometimes I really wish I was wrong, you know? Yeah, the song plays at the Pyramid Planner and it's a generic desert song. I already talked about this multiple times, so I'm just gonna move on for a 10 C tier. Next up we have Waking Dream. It sort of sounds like a lullaby. At the beginning that sound like that peaceful state when you first are asleep. It also has this weird happy section at the end. It's a nice song, but nothing that grabbed me too much, a bit too discombobulated to make sense, but a nice attempt at conveying such an abstract concept which I can't imagine was an easy task. Still, 6 out of 10 B tier. Next up we have Dreamstate. It's a very peaceful song, like you're in a dream of sorts. But yes, I actually like this song quite a bit, but unfortunately I did find it a bit too boring at times. Like, the slow pacing nature of it sometimes doesn't do it enough favor, but obviously it is a peaceful song, and that's kind of my soft spot when it comes to RuneScape music, so 8 out of 10 A tier. Next up we have the Lunar Isle. This track sounds like magic combined with Fremennik songs. It's a fine enough song and I find it interesting at points, but it's more background fodder than anything else. 6 out of 10 B tier. And next up we have Isle of Everywhere, which has the same vibe as the previous song, since it also plays at Lunar Isle, and I pretty much feel the same way, although this song is a bit more combat oriented because it plays more on the sukas, so outside of the Lunar Isle city than on the inside, so still 6 out of 10 B tier. Next up we have Way of the Enchanter. Essentially this is a more magical Time to Mine, if you remember that song. It has the same heavy tones as those dwarf songs. It does make sense since it does play on the Lunar Isle mine, so but yes, this song is kind of like magical fan mining. It's a 7 out of 10 A tier. The Galleon. It's like an adventurous song with a certain pirate undertone, which I appreciate a lot. I think the song is a lot of fun and feels like Baby's first adventure outside of the beginning village. It does fall back on a more slower sea shanty type vibes by the middle, but I think that only helps the song instead of detracting from it. It then goes into this faster tempo of a sea shanty vibe. It's pretty good, honestly. I was very positively impressed. 8 out of 10 A tier. Next up we have Brimstail Scales. This song plays in the gnome cave where you do the crystal puzzle with like the shapes and colors. It's a song very reminiscent of the gnomes, obviously, so it has that playful tone. I quite really enjoyed it. There are parts of the song that are pretty catchy as well. It does get a bit too much at times. Like a song goes, or as the song goes, like you sort of stop enjoying it. so maybe it's a bit too sugary in that sense, but overall it's a nice song. 7 out of 10 A tier. Next up we have Lament of Meiyerditch. Ian has a lot of bangers, but Ian also has a lot of generic songs. Swamp and Desert seem to be by far his weakest points, and while I have talked a lot about the desert, I haven't really touched too much on the swamp, and I think that this song just really proves that. It's not bad, it's just very boring and forgettable, and I think that their 5 minutes length doesn't really do them any favors, as usually they are not used well. So it's a 3 out of 10 C tier. Next up, the Last Shanty, and I might have heard this song before, and this is more like a doomer version of parts of that song. I think it fits the mood quite well. It's doomer in nature, but it's somewhat playful, not too serious, until it lures you into the second section, which is a much more serious part of the song when it comes to its tone. It's that playful, things are so bad that you can't help laugh at the hopelessness of the situation. It's a pretty solid song, and it's an 8 out of 10 A tier. Next up we have Night of the Vampyre. The beginning is such a banger, and then it's all downhill from there. I guess not entirely downhill, but like the beginning was super promising, and then we only end up seeing sort of glimpses of that organ-led song, which was kind of disappointing for me. Still, there are sections that are good despite this. It's just that they are enshrouded on a more generic song. The song is also pretty long for what it is, or what it should be in my opinion. Yes, I understand that the appeal of long ballads when it comes to vampires and the mood that is being attempted to be portrayed here, but I end up being more bored than engaged or immersed, so maybe not that great to set the mood. Still, it has good moments on it, so it's a 7 out of 10 A tier. Next up we have Slug A Bug Ball. It's like a Sea Shanty inspired, somewhat combat tense song. I actually don't know what to make of it. It's very meh for me, it didn't grab me, and I feel like it's hard to understand it. This is something I've touched on when it comes to Ian songs, but some of them are just hard to understand what they are like supposed to be, or you know, they're very confusing, or at least they're hard to get into. I think the mixing of styles sometimes is really good, but other times it just makes things much more confusing. Like it's hard to understand what the mood or the place that the song is conveying actually is. It's just that, honestly, Ian sometimes can't really carry out those mixes in a satisfying way, and that's why they sound way more confusing than they should, but, you know, still, 5 out of 10 B tier. Next up we have the Mollusc Menace. So the song leans more heavily on the sea song than, you know, that has more menacing tones, and I think it works far better. It's also more catchy as well, and I think the section in the middle doesn't really work all that well, while, you know, Ian has gotten better at making them, you know, so they can fit a bit more seamlessly into the songs. I'm still not a huge fan of most of them. Still, it's a 7 out of 10 A tier. Next up we have Prime Time. Honestly, it's like a mix between a dwarf song and just something. It's this weird mix, and I was quite surprised by it actually. Honestly, for the reputation Elemental Workshop has, the songs are not bad at all. But then again, you know, 5 minutes for a section you visit once during a quest. Yeah, it's almost the same song and dance, and either way, like, you know, I gotta give it to this song for surprising me as much as it did. 7 out of 10 A tier. Next up we have My Arm's Big Adventure. It's this playful song with a sea undertones. I think it fits the character of My Arm, and it's a nice song. I think this song is the perfect representation of how you feel during My Arm's shenanigans, and fits the quest like a glove. As far as the song itself goes, it's a solid 7 out of 10 A tier. Next up we have Roc And Roll, 2 songs for 2 cutscenes in a single quest. Jagex budget at this point must have been just swimming in money. I actually like this song, it's this fast tempo, tense fight. I think it's great, and as I've mentioned before, I do enjoy the faster tempo songs quite a bit, and think Ian should do more of them, and well, it did. Some of them weren't that great. This one, it's a 7 out of 10 A tier. Ice Spirits. I like the start quite a bit, the rest is serviceable. It's a 2006 Halloween event soundtrack, so it doesn't really need to be anything super fancy, I guess. It's a 6 out of 10 B tier. Next up we have Floating Free. It's a relaxing, adventurous song, a welcome surprise for sure. I really enjoy the toned down nature of it. It's not bombastic or anything, just a chill, hey, let's go on a little adventure and enjoy. It's a 7 out of 10 A tier. Scape Hunter. This song came out with the release of the Hunter skill, and yes, it is based on Scape main. This version has a more adventurous vibe to it, more exciting vibe to it. It's basically like the farming song, the Scape farming or Scape farm or whatever, but it's more a bit. It's a good song, honestly, I just enjoy it and I don't really have much to say about it. It's a 7 out of 10 A tier. Eagle Speak. This song starts the same way that the song On The Wing does. Since it plays in the same area, or at least close to it, it's only fair, I guess. The song starts very soft and then has a break before continuing the intro and building on it slowly. It's a relaxing song using bird chirping all throughout while having bits and breaks that are a bit more negative in tone. Honestly, while the song is good, I feel it gets overshadowed by the melody at the beginning, since I think that is what most players remember. Either way, the rest of the song is no sloucher. I could do without the more negative breaks, but I understand why they're there. Still, 8 out of 10 A tier. Poles Apart. The song starts more spooky until eventually builds into a more exciting song. It never leaves those spooky moments behind, which, speaks to the hostility that the area represents, since this song plays in the Enter area, a frozen iceberg full of creatures to hunt. It's a fine song, but this is one of those where the song just sort of glues together and doesn't really seem to have an identity for me. 6 out of 10 B tier. Next up we have Joy of the Hunt. I would say this is a more exciting version of Eagle Speak. It has more of an adventurous or exciting vibe to it than Eagle Speak does. It's a nice song all throughout, although, again, nothing super memorable, which is a theme I am noticing with a lot of these Hunter songs. While not bad by any means, I also don't quite care for many of them. They are good background music and that's it. Still, 7 out of 10 A tier. This is a mix of jungle songs with Hunter songs. It's good, but a lot of the elements I seem to enjoy just remind me of other songs I've enjoyed more. Still, nothing bad about it, good to have on the background, and while not a gem I would actively put on, I also wouldn't skip it if it came on my playlist. Yeah, that's how I can describe these songs. You wouldn't pick them, but if you also wouldn't skip them if they came on. So 7 out of 10 A tier. Next up we have Where Eagles Lair, because, Jagex really thinks they're funny with their puns, and they are sometimes. But yes, it's an Enter song, but more menacing with a spooky undertone to it. It plays during Eagle Speak, and I must say, not really my favorite, but it doesn't do anything too bad. It's average. It's average. 5 out of 10 B tier. Next up we have Jungle Bells. It's a Christmas song. I see Jagex loves releasing a new version every year at this point. This one is just Jingle Bells but with a sax just ripping through the track, and it was honestly a vibe. 7 out of 10. A tier. And Jungle Island Xmas. This is the Christmas version of Jungle Island. Yeah, I guess Bond was on Christmas duty that year. 6 out of 10 bit here. Just take a wild guess what this song is. Yeah, not 2, but 3 Christmas remakes. I mean, honestly, I gotta give it to Bond. Having to release 3 different tracks for Christmas that are remakes of well-known tracks must not have been an easy task. 6 out of 10 bit here. Assault and Battery. It's a combat song that creates tension by not having to rely on fast notes. I think this song slowly grew on me. It plays during Barbarian Assault, which I can already visualize the song going on while players fight the Penance creatures. So honestly, 8 out of 10, 8 here. Pirates of Penance. This song has a much more menacing tone than the previous one. You do hear it while fighting the Queen, so I guess that tracks. Between both, I think I enjoyed the previous one better. This one, however, is still pretty solid, and for me, it's a 7 out of 10, 8 here. Back to Life. Okay, this is an Ian Desert song, and I was ready to be disappointed. However, I was kind of surprised. While it is a desert song, the song uses the strings ensemble thing to make it sound much more of a magical thing than just a desert song. In fact, I would say the focus is on the magical with desert details latched onto it, and as the song progresses it starts being more upbeat, more exciting, more active and involved. Overall, it's a very good song that I was really not ready for. For a moment, I actually thought the song might have been related to the Tower of Life, given its name, and then I got instantly disappointed as the song started, as, you know, because the beginning is just a bit too deserty. But there is this section that is more of a desert vibes at around 240, which I didn't exactly enjoy. But, you know, when it comes to the rest, I gotta admit, even Ian gets desert songs right sometimes. Almost never, but hey, a broken clock is right twice a day. So it's a strong 8 out of 10. 8 here. It's a desert song with the focus being more on combat, since this plays during a boss fight. I mean, well, look, one song was still good, right? Like, yeah, this one is just fine, I guess. 6 out of 10 bit here. It's a 5-minute long desert song. Well, back to reality we go. 5 out of 10 bit here. Okay, it's not as bad of a track for being an Ian Desert song like they have all been until now, but it's also nothing that pulled me up that much. Maybe I'm just a hater for desert tracks, but I can't be fucked with them, honestly. I just can't be fucked with them anymore, so 6 out of 10 bit here. Undead Dungeon. Okay, so this song was a bit weird at first, given how simple it seemed to be from the other RuneScape tracks. And well, the different style isn't random. This song is from Mod Den. Who, you might ask? Well, he worked at Jagex for 2 years between 2006 and 2008 according to the wiki, so yeah, there aren't a lot of songs of him. As far as this one goes, it combines a menacing tone with a combat one. It's a nice experiment and it might grow on me, but for now it's 6 out of 10 bit here. Ooh, next up we have Espionage. Yes, the penguin songs. I quite like them, including this one. It's such a devious, sneaky tone to it. And while that is happening at the same time, the song sort of makes the space feel really busy until the break comes in, which is much more of a sneaky moment. It's like you are spying on a spy headquarters. That's why the song has this busy, sneaky tone, and then it breaks to a slower, sneaky tone of its own. You know what? 9 out of 10 S tier. Have a nice day. This song shouldn't hit as hard as it does. It's a really good song with a interesting pun, to say the least. It's just so peaceful and has this vibe of solitude, and yet you never feel quite alone or at peace. It's by far one of the most interesting slow pacing songs in the game for me. The entire icy, secluded feeling just does it. And the best part is that the song, or as the song goes, it starts to unravel itself, adding more bits and pieces to it and slowly filling the silence. Over time it became one of my absolute favorites for sure, and there's a reason for that. 10 out of 10 S tier. Major Minor. It fills you with the sense of worry, and throughout the track it warms you up to it, so by the middle, while the track isn't exactly happy, it also isn't menacing anymore. In a way, it sounds like a dance between mining and feeling the danger, which in this case, yeah, the song plays in the Atizo mine where the trolls are, so it's pretty fitting. Anyway, 6 out of 10 B tier. Ogre at the top, yet another pan. Like, there are way too many pans in this game, and yeah, Jagex can never seem to get enough. The song just has a lot of different sections, mostly using the same instruments. It repeats a few times and then changes and then repeats the patterns throughout most of the song. It's like this dangerous song, but at the same time with the vibe from the trolls. I guess the song name is supposed to be a pan over the top, and the song is very much that, and there are a lot of trolls in this particular cave, and it was a fucking pain to get to it, and then I died, and then I lost my orb, I got back to it, and then I didn't have my orb, so I had to get to it again. So yes, honestly, it's a very interesting experiment, but it didn't exactly gel with me despite how different the song was. 6 out of 10 B tier. Jester time. It starts very slow and slowly builds up as the king, I guess, starts being more entertained, and the Jester performance starts picking up. Yeah, because it plays during that minigame of the Jester doing the Volcanic Isles quest. The song sounds more medieval and somewhat silly and fun. It's fine, I wasn't exactly expecting much either. 6 out of 10 B tier. Oh my god, it's a song from all of the fact videos about how RuneScape as a song with Norse Code that spells RuneScape. Yeah, the song itself is actually pretty slow paced, and honestly the best part about the Morse Code section isn't even the fact that it is Morse Code, but the fact that it's catchy, and the part that I by far remember the most about the song. The rest of the song sort of maintains the same demeanor all throughout, except for the break in the middle where it goes into this choir section, and then it sort of uses that to build on the third section. I was pretty surprised to learn that this song was actually a Bond song and not an Ian song. Still, it does its job. I can blame it for trying something unique, like the Morse Code thing, but it's also not the most catchy. 6 out of 10 B tier. Island of the Trolls. The song starts pretty slow, it mostly relies on drums and saxophone, and it's meh. I don't know, like I think the song's just very meh. It's like fine. It's a very simple rhythm, just sort of going through. I found it very boring, very akin to some of the wilderness songs I've covered in the past. It's a 5 out of 10 C tier. It still has this Viking vibe, but with a more exciting tone to it, an happier tone overall. I really enjoyed this section after 1 minute. I think it's by far the catchiest part of the song. The rest is fine, nothing to write home about, but again, if the song came on the playlist, I probably wouldn't bother skipping it. It's a 6 out of 10 B tier. Garden of Autumn. This song is akin to the one I mentioned earlier, the Back to Life song. It has details of desert song, but it is a more peaceful song overall. It is supposed to pass an autumn vibe, which I think doesn't exactly do. When I think autumn, I don't exactly think this type of sound, or at least I don't think it should sound like this, or this is not what I picture it sounding. But still, you get the magical sections, the more nature sections, and the more icy sections. It's sort of a pleasant song to listen to. It's 7 out of 10 right here. Garden of Spring. It is essentially the same song as before, but with a more spring tone to it. Duh. It mostly uses shorter notes to make it seem a bit busier and more exciting, as if the garden is just waking up from a slumber. Although it's not much different from the previous ones, I can't take points away due to that, so it's a 7 out of 10 A tier. Okay, think the previous song, but the notes are less shy, is how I would describe it. 7 out of 10 A tier. Okay, think the previous song, but more icy. Yeah, this game sometimes doesn't really make it easy for me, does it? 7 out of 10 A tier. Creature Cruelty, a very sad song with a slower tempo. Despite being 5 minutes long, the song just sort of grabs your attention and makes you try and understand what it's trying to present. It has a constant ARP going through the song, but what conducts the mood is by far the other instruments that slowly come into the song. At first I was like, okay, good song, but I think the longer the song went on and upon subsequent listens, this was a earworm. Like, I really love this song, and it might not use a lot of the instruments in this cacophony type thing that usually the other songs do, but it's a really good song, and I would say amongst the most interesting in the game for sure. Sometimes you just gotta go with instinct and review songs that way, which is why this song is a 9 out of 10 S tier. Magic, 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 or Magic, Magic, Magic. Yeah, this song is essentially the same as the previous one, but it has a happier tone to it. Like, it's pretty much the inverse of the previous song. I must say this one doesn't eat nearly as much as the previous one, as I think the slower paced nature here doesn't lend itself as well to an happier song than a sad one. It's still an interesting song, but after hearing the previous one, I don't think this version this version would be able to top it. It's still pretty good with that magical feeling or wondrous feeling that some songs give you, but not as good as the previous one, I can tell you that much. 8 out of 10 A tier. Mutant Medley. This song sounds like it plays in a desolate arch environment. It does play at the Tower of Life, in the basement, in the creature creation minigame, I think it's called. I don't really understand the menacing tone fully of it, but sure, okay, weird creatures, but still. The main melody does in a way help diffuse that and bring the song to a more sad mood, so it's not just menacing, but still. I think overall the song is fine. Funnily enough, I glossed over this one and went right for the work, so I heard that one before this one and only realized when I didn't have any notes in my script about it, so there's that. And maybe, that's why the main melody sounds like a weird mix between the other 3 Tower of Life songs. I mean, sure, the song is called Medley, so maybe that's why, but I couldn't help shake off that this is just not on the same level as the others. Still, 7 out of 10, A tier. Work, work, work. Okay, imagine Norse Code, but better in like every way. The bass on this song just slaps, and it combines so well with that scale thing that it's going on with other instruments, and you know, in good Bond fashion, you just slowly add details to the song to make it feel fuller and support the other instruments. I must say, however, the song kinda ends at 2 minutes abruptly and then it starts back up again. That was a bit weird, especially because the song doesn't actually end, but that break did take away a bit from the overall vibe. Still, this song slaps so hard, and this is exactly the reason why you shouldn't have Bond on Christmas songs remake duty. You should have Bond on just creating these fucking bangers. 9 out of 10 S tier. Zombieism. It's a mellow song, very on the side of loneliness. It is again pretty simple, and at this point you can see Bond start to take over and participate much more in a lot more songs, which to me is welcomed, because while songs like this one aren't super bombastic and they don't grab me a whole bunch, ultimately I do prefer them over Ian's, since they are easier to grasp and are more of a mood or a vibe, I guess. Like, it's easier to put this song on the background and just sort of have it there, keep you company, than many of Ian's more boring or background songs. Also worth noting, this is the first song that uses the reworked audio. For us, that doesn't matter, because the audio I use is the current one found in the wiki, which, if I recall correctly, is the one found in the cache of the game currently, so all songs are up to date in terms of quality. I did think about using the older versions for the songs up until now, but there were two issues. One, I couldn't find the old version of every song, and two, if I had to preview or review every song, or every version of a song rather, we would be here all day, so I ended up not doing it. Anyway, as far as the song is concerned, 6 out of 10 B tier. Dorgeshuun City. It's a slow-paced goblin/troll type song. I guess it fits given the shyness of the cave goblins. If earlier I was talking about background songs, well, this is one. It's not a bad song or a boring one, it's just one of those chill songs to have on the background while you do something to keep you company. 7 out of 10 right here. Dorgeshuun Deep. It's a menacing song with the sound signature of the cave goblins. If you took that away, I wonder at which point you would realize this isn't as much of a desert song as it is a cave song. I mean, to be fair, the Dagenham caves have the same vibe to them, so maybe I'm being a bit too harsh here. Either way, same scenario as the previous one, although to a lesser degree. 6 out of 10 B tier. Alternative Route. This song plays on the Chaos Tunnels from the quest What Lies Below. These tunnels actually have a portal that, if you have a Chaos Talisman, will teleport you to the Chaos Altar, which is why it's called Alternative Route, because it's an alternative route to the Chaos Altar. Okay, I gotta admit, this one is actually pretty fucking smart. I think Bond is actually developing more of this minimalistic style, and then just sort of slowly adding instruments as the song goes. And honestly, I can't describe the mood of this song, but it's very lonesome to a point. Like you are in sort of a unknown, potentially hostile environment. But I do like that sort of minimalistic building with instruments as the song goes style, much more than Ian's throw 100 instruments at the wall, have different vibes to it throughout the song, and done with it. This one, 7 out of 10 right here. Easter Jig. It's an Easter song and a fast-paced one at that. It makes whatever you are doing pretty exciting type deal. This is another song made by Dan, so that's 2 out of the entire catalog, which I think is like 12 songs. I fear he might not have that many more in Old School Runescape. Either way, this one gets a solid 7 out of 10 A tier. Next up we have Rising Damp. Speaking of Bond's minimalistic tracks, you can get more minimalistic than this. I think this might be his worst track so far, to be honest, and funnily enough, it's still a serviceable song. I might skip this one if it comes on a playlist though, so yeah, okay, you know what, I gotta admit, I was kinda vibing with it by the end, so I gotta give it a 6 out of 10 B tier. Hem and Seek, the perfect song to sneak around. It does have a bit of that tone from work, work, work at times, but it does work here. It is the type of song for a quest section, so you can't fault it too much for that. You know, of course it's not gonna be the biggest banger out there, and on top of that, it was still enjoyable. 6 out of 10 B tier. Ham Attack, another song that plays in a cutscene, and another song by Dan. I gotta say, he might not have made a lot of songs, and they aren't all bad. This one is just sort of a rock song, pretty much. Like, this shit actually just goes really hard, and it has no right of going this hard. Like, you could easily make a cover of this with real instruments. I was super impressed by this, and for a cutscene song no less. I do think that at points the MIDI doesn't lend itself to what the composer wanted to do, and as a result the song sounds a bit low quality, but honestly I can't fault it too much. Like, there's a good song in there, and it's pointless to try and argue otherwise. And MIDI aside, this was a really good surprise, because the song might be actually amongst the most unique songs I have ever heard. Not because of the composition, but because of what the fucking composer tried to actually pull off. I gotta give it 9 out of 10 S tier. Slice of Silent Movie. First of all, let me just say, I love the use of the whistle to portray a train tone. It's a very nice touch. As for the song, honestly it's a good boss fight song. It's not over the top, and it doesn't need to be, it's just a tense, and you know, it sounds like those soundtracks from silent movies, which is the title of the song, and with segment tying Zanuck to the tracks, also, you know, goes playing into that. Yeah, Jagex really loves making all of the puns come together. You know, as for the quest tropes, again, like the name of the song sort of tracks, so, you know, what really did you expect? 7 out of 10 A tier. Slice of Station. So, not only does this song have the nice jingle about, you know, riding a train, it also emulates the sound of the train actually working. Like, sure, as a song, this is not gonna be the best thing in the world, but honestly, for RuneScape and for how creative it is, it's a good song. I can tell Bond had a lot of fun working on this one. I'm not gonna give it an S tier, but honestly, I gotta give it a fucking A tier. These songs are just they're just getting so creative, and I really love that, you know, composers are being able to sort of get out of the box with what they do and how they present it, at least, you know, on an audio perspective. This one is a 8 out of 10, A tier. Down and Out. It's this magical, lonely song. It does play in the Lunar Isle mine when Sirius is, well, down and out. It's only 2 minutes long, and this is what I love the most about it. It doesn't need to extend over what it needs to be. It just is what is and does it well. And for that, 7 out of 10 A tier. The next song, Everlasting, which is also the name of the creature you fight. This song has a sort of constant drum in the background while constant strings happen in the foreground. It plays during Dreamstate, so I guess it's supposed to, you know, be a tension type song where the drums seem to be more of a, like, it reminded me of a heartbeat, and the wiki actually beat me to it. Yeah, I really hate, like, having a thought, and then the wiki just sort of does that when it comes to the analysis and anticipatedly. Either way, I think the song does a good job at it, because if multiple people feel that that song represents a certain art beat, then I think that the song did a really good job at fucking representing that. So it's a 6 out of 10 beat tier. Elusive. Much like the previous song, this song is mostly focused on conveying a certain emotion. Here, and as the name implies, you are fighting the elusive. So as a result, the song doesn't have a constant instrument, but rather short bursts of instruments coming in and out with fast notes, seemingly out of order to convey a certain sneak yet very tense tone throughout the fight. Also, suck it wiki, no analysis for this one, so I call it dibs. Also, since I have pretty much crucified Ian for this in the past, this song is 4 minutes long. It might not have maybe needed to be this long, in my humble opinion. So, you know, if I criticized Ian a bunch for this, in this point, I also gotta point that out. Still, 7 out of 10 A tier. Actually, I was wrong, it's a 6 out of 10 B tier, sorry. Inadequacy. This song plays yet again during the Dream Mentor boss fight during the inadequacy phase. Compared to the two previous songs, this one is much more of a build-up. It feels like you are slowly training to eventually defeat the final boss as things escalate. I found it pretty entertaining, honestly. 7 out of 10 A tier. This was the 7 out of 10 A tier, not the elusive, sorry. On the up. Much like the previous song, this is a build-up song. The song is preparing you for something. It has more of a uplifting and hopeful tone than the previous one, probably because this plays after helping Sirius. This song is yet again 2 minutes long. Bond seems to know how to make good short songs instead of 5-minute long songs for places that you visit for like a minute tops. This song is fine, albeit I find it a bit generic. Still, 6 out of 10, B tier. Untouchable, the last Dream Mentor creature. This song starts much like the elusive and slowly adds strings as it builds up tension. However, the song never quite allows itself to get fully going, because I feel that would give it a different mood of what it's going for. The song is trying to make you uneasy. It is not much of a song, so again, I appreciate the sacrifice of not being that good of a song if that means it sets up the atmosphere quite well. 6 out of 10 B tier. Looking back, this is just a more relaxed version of Newbie Melody, and it plays at the Varrock Museum. Also, the name of the song is fantastic. Not only does it fit the museum, since, you know, museums are known for preserving history and thus looking back at our past, but also the fact that the song is a different version of Newbie Melody, the first song you hear in-game. Super fitting. This version is like why you would remember Newbie Melody being ages ago, like you just found a cassette with songs from decades ago. You know, they are going to have sort of this old timey sound, and this song does a good job at doing that with Newbie Melody. And I mean, it's pretty much Newbie Melody, so 9 out of 10 S tier. Fi Fo Fum. This song sounds like a more modern Bond song, the percussion being faster with the strings accompanying it in the background, making the fights, and in this case the Grimtail's boss fight, much more engaging, since you have both the combat nature of the song, but also the song itself sounds full without sounding like a cacophony of instruments where you have a hard time knowing what the fuck is going on. It also uses the leitmotif of Scape main, I'm pretty sure I've heard it there. It's just an absolute banger and I was not expecting it. 9 out of 10 S tier. Mousetrap. The song starts very slow, making you feel like you are in an hostile place. It then goes into this section with a more silly approach, while still maintaining the hostile vibe. This song plays when you are in the rat holes after being shrunk, so I guess it's pretty fitting. It's a 5 out of 10 B tier. Impetuous. This song plays at the Puro and it starts very sneaky, very devious. It then goes into a more silly section with the dog bark. And look, I know it's not a dog bark by the way, but I do like to call it that. Honestly, the song seemed more of a background song at first, but it did grow on me, the melody's catching, I was vibing by the end, so 7 out of 10, A tier. The Maze. I think that at this point Ian might be on vacation because it has been several updates and several songs of just Bond. I mean, look, I'm not complaining, I'm just surprised, it's all, you know, I'm so used to Ian that now having all Bond, it's like, whoa. Yeah, this song is spooky and a very, very minimalistic song. I do enjoy the dark tone it comes in as, you know, if it's a sort of demon growl, but other than that, I don't really have much else to talk about. It sets them with well, I guess, that's about it. 5 out of 10 B tier. Okay, imagine barbarianism, but higher stakes. That's this song. It has an overall more somber, sad tone to it, which I guess is fitting, since we are talking about barbarians being dead in a dungeon, so, you know. The song then slowly builds on the background percussion with more percussion until finally it all comes together. It's yet again a song that grew on me as I wasn't really expecting it. I really like the synth tone to it, which at times kinda wants to be triumphant, yet it's never allowed to be. Eventually, towards the end of the song, that triumphant tone does fully build, finalizing the song and bringing it to a close. Solid 7 out of 10, A tier. School's Out. This song plays at the school surprise exam random event. It has a funky vibe, being very upbeat, and he probably heard me talking trash because Ian's back. Yeah, this is actually a banger song, very pleasant to hear. Midway through you hear a sort of solo which I think works great to that 3-part structure Ian loves using, since here, instead of being a subversion of the tone that the song has always so far, it's more of a break that builds on it, much like solos usually do for regular songs. Honestly, part of me doesn't want to give it, but I mean, it kinda deserves an S tier, so congratulations Ian, 9 out of 10. Nightmare, because Nightmare, yeah, we're back with the fucking puns. Yeah, it starts very toned down, almost giving you a sneak type vibe, until the horns come in, giving you that grander sense of danger. The song then goes back to being sneaky. I think it does a really good job at not just conveying the sneaky but dangerous tone, given that you are infiltrating the Black Knight's fortress, but also, you know, at reminding you of the danger that can always be afoot, especially with the horns coming in and out. Solid 6 out of 10 B tier. Lore and Order. Okay, this one sounds like a familiar nightly track. I find it amusing that this one plays at the Sears Village court case. Like, this is a court, you know, not a nightly army castle. But this song actually marks a very important stage in our tier list. This is the last RuneScape 2 song we have. From here on out, every song you'll hear is new to Old School RuneScape. As for this song, 7 out of 10 A tier. Armadillo Alliance. Psych, you really thought? Okay, technically, the save that we had for Old School RuneScape was made before Gold Wars Dungeon was released into the game, meaning this is the first track original to Old School RuneScape in terms of updates. However, it is a track that came out in 2007 and this is an unaltered version for all intents and purposes, so I'm gonna count this as an original RuneScape 2 song and not an Old School RuneScape song. So yeah, rest in peace. Anyway, the song itself is very triumphant. Honestly, this song sounds like the audio version of Justice. Like just the word justice. Like if the word justice was a song, it would be this song. Yeah, honestly, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of it, especially of the nightly type songs, but still, 7 out of 10, A tier. Armageddon. This song sounds like a mix of all 4 God Wars Dungeon songs. Although I know that, even though I only heard Armadillion Alliance so far. Well, let me tell you a little secret. I don't always respect the order of the list, and sometimes I just make jokes relating to their placing in the list. And now that you sort of know that information, you will never know which songs were an actual surprise, given their place on the list, versus which one of them I already knew and just decided to make a joke about their placing on the list. Anyway, this song's a 7 out of 10, A tier. Bandu's Battalion. Whoa, it's so crazy to be hearing this song for the first time. I totally haven't heard this song before, taking notes to be able to make the assertion I made on the Armageddon song. Anyway, much like the Armadillo song, this song is just over the top. It has that, you know, elemental, usually troll and goblin songs, and, you know, much like the Armadillo song, you have the same percussion, which obviously symbolizes the marching towards a fight, because God Wars Dungeon, this place, you know. This song, however, at parts is more serious, Pink Panther theme, while at other parts is more triumphant. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think if you hear it, you'll understand what I mean. I guess Bond wanted to encapsulate both winning and losing members in the same song, and this is essentially that, and, you know, that's why you have that duality. I didn't enjoy this one as much as the Armadillo one, although it's a pretty nice experiment. 6 out of 10 bitter. Strength of Ceredom... Wait, why is Ceredomin smaller? At least the text looks smaller, doesn't it? Or am I just tripping? What the fuck? Whatever. Fucking Strength of Ceredomin. This song is, to me, just like the Armadillo song, but far more magical in nature, which I fucking hate because I hate Ceredomin. Why does Armadillo have to get the shitty nightly tracks? I want all the magic tracks. This track does not have the percussion the same way that the other 2 tracks do, however, and it also seems to remain far more awful all throughout than the other 2. There are glimpses of the magical tone being more sad, but they don't last often. This is yet again just favoritism towards a shitty god. For that alone, the track should get a 0 out of 10, but since I'm judging the track itself, it's an 8 out of 10 A tier. Zamorak Zoo. I don't get the name of this song. Are you calling Zamorak an animal? I mean, I agree, but still, seems a bit harsh. The song is much more devious in tone than the other 3. There is more emphasis on the spookiness and chaos of the song, as the song rarely maintains an easy-to-follow rhythm. It's even worse once the song goes into this sort of distorted section, which I loved. It encapsulates the demeanor that the god is known for. Honestly, Ian might have a lot of bangers, but as far as songs encapsulating certain atmospheres or characters, Bond just seems way better at it. Not to mention that Bond also has plenty of bangers as well, even though he doesn't have nearly half the fucking songs that Ian does. 7 out of 10 A tier. Gnome Village Party. Now this is the first Old School Runescape song. RuneScape 3 does not have this song. This is the first exclusive song to be made in Old School Runescape. It was made for the Thanksgiving event back in 2013, and the song is very upbeat and cheeky, which is typical of the gnomes. It's a fun song to listen to, and the most important factor, this is the first song made by Mod Ash. Yep, the solo Mod Ash developing all of the content for Old School RuneScape. We are entering that era. This makes 4 completely different composers present in Old School RuneScape so far. And honestly, Ash's first song might not have been as big of a banger as Ian's or Bond's, but it's still pretty good. 7 out of 10 A tier. beneath this stronghold. It's a slow-paced, menacing song with glimpses of a more magical tone. The way I can describe the style of Ash is just classical. Like, this song just reminds me of a classical song, played by an orchestra, which might make sense, as if I'm not mistaken, Ash does have training in, or as a classical musician. This song, 6 out of 10 B tier. Netherrealm. This song has a faster tempo with short notes to drum up the tension. It plays at the Metal Dragons area in Brimhaven, or if you are as old as me, I'm like 90% sure this used to play the Stronghold Cave where the Metal Dragons were, because the Stronghold Cave used to have like all of the Slayer creatures. Anyway, I think the song grew on me quite a bit, and you can clearly see Ash is not trying to make video game music, but I think that makes these songs much more unique. Like, between Ian and Bond, sure, if you've heard as many songs as me, you can tell most of the times which songs are from which person, but they function around the same. But with Ash, it's so clear, given his classical influences, which songs are made by him. One thing I did notice, however, was that certain instruments on this song were a bit too loud compared to the first part. I'm actually quite impressed. 8 out of 10, A tier. Next up, Troubled Waters. This song plays at the Kraken Cave, which means it has more of a sea twist than the previous track. It does still have those classical influences, which is why I was so interested to see how Ash would tackle a song in such an environment, but I think it did well. Again, it's a mix between sea and classical with constant stops and goes, or stop and go, I guess. You know, of the snare, which makes the song almost feel sort of two-faced in a way. Like, you have a more fun part and then you have a more serious, dangerous part, which I think fits the Kraken monsters quite well. 7 out of 10, A tier. Scorpia Dances, a menacing song making you feel isolated. This song is actually pretty good at painting the atmosphere at Scorpia, even though Ash doesn't seem to have as much experience as the others. Obviously, I do know he made songs for RuneScape 2 and whatnot, but still, he's mainly a developer, not a composer. It's crazy that during these early days, Ash actually made most of the songs alongside making the content for the game itself, which to me just means that he has a better grasp on what type of vibes the content should have since he designed it. Overall though, as a song, 6 out of 10 B tier. B tier, there we go. Devils May Care. Much like the Kraken song Troubled Waters, this song also has the same somewhat silly vibe mixed with a more serious tone. Then the song picks up into this faster paced, more menacing church organ tone, making everything feel much more important and serious. Again, here, however, the mix is a bit loud with certain instruments when compared to the overall song. I guess this is one of the aspects that Ash needs to work on. It's still a good song, 7 out of 10, A tier. Pick and Shovel. This song plays at the Motherlode Mine, and honestly, I must say, I think Ash makes really interesting fast-paced songs, and this song is a pretty good example of that. Yet again, certain instruments are a bit louder in the mix than others. I think that this is a problem that, especially with a lot of Ash songs, and especially early Old School Runescape songs, they do have. I mean, some old songs also don't exactly have the best mixes, I've noticed, but at least with the Ash songs I think it's really noticeable, the difference in the volume of certain instruments, but, you know, still, it's, I think, a pretty interesting song. Honestly, I only realized I was aiming this after I finished all of my notes, writing all of my notes, so, you know, 9 out of 10 S tier, the first S tier of Ash. Clan Wars. This song has the triumphant but dangerous tones on lockdown. Parts of it remind me of the Gold Wars Dungeon songs, but also this song was made by Bond, and here lies the issue. This song isn't original to Old School Runescape, it's original to RuneScape 2. Honestly, this is just Bond showcasing how good he is at making music for the game. I think the worst part of Old School Runescape is that it will be a while until Bond comes into the scene again, since most work will be done for RuneScape 2 and RuneScape 3 during the time where Old School Runescape sort of gets popular. The song itself is actually really good. Now, does it come close to songs like Castle Wars? Honestly, I think so. While I was particularly convinced, or I wasn't particularly convinced at the beginning, I think over time, upon more listens, I can see how the song just sort of comes together and how well it presents both triumphant and glorious parts while, instantly responding with the combat ones. I think it's great. To me, this song could very well have been way more generic, but there's just something, like there's an X factor. Like sometimes other RuneScape songs, like they are generic, but they just have that thing that makes them memorable. So, as of right now, S tier, 9 out of 10. And next up we have Warpath. Now, this song is essentially Asha's version of the previous one. This one is actually not present in RuneScape 2 or RuneScape 3, and it is exclusive to Old School RuneScape. This is something you will notice with a lot of pieces of content where, because they are essentially popular RuneScape 2 and, pre-OC, popular pieces of content that were imported to Old School RuneScape, they will have songs that were made back then and they don't have original songs. As far as this one goes, okay, maybe I'm a bit washed. It's not exactly Asha's version of the previous one, but it does try to convey the same triumphant combat as the previous song does. It tries to convey the same duality. It is done on, essentially Asha's signature style at this point. I think it's a catchy song, very solid. Honestly, I'm in between here, but I think that for now, I'm gonna give it a strong 8 out of 10 A tier. Next up we have Bane. You can clearly see this is the first year of Old School RuneScape because it has been almost a year and we really haven't had that much content and that many songs as a result. This song compensates for being 8 minutes long essentially. Although, to be fair, it does play at a Corpist Lair, which is a notoriously long boss to kill, so also this song is just the same one that came with the Corpist back in 2008, I'm pretty sure. I would have to listen to them again, but I'm fairly certain it is. Which means Mod Jolly is the 5th composer to contribute to Old School RuneScape, even though it technically didn't make any Old School RuneScape songs, original ones at least, that I'm aware of. But okay, let's face it, sure, the song is 8 minutes long, but it didn't really need to be 8 minutes long in my opinion. I got kinda bored midway through. And that's when the song gets you, because at that point the song starts changing into a more tense rendition, upping the pressure you feel, and then it goes back to normal. Or does it? Yeah, this song just really likes to change things around. From what I recall from my time with RuneScape 3, the Corpist quest has multiple phases, so it is fitting that the song changes this much. Honestly, it's a solid 7 out of 10 A tier. Shining Spirit. This is just a more magical and uneasy version of the song Shining. That wilderness song that I said it didn't sound like a wilderness song. Now, while Shining goes into this section with the trumpets, here the song actually slows down and it makes the song have this sort of delayed tone to it. It makes you feel very uneasy. Also, I'm not gonna name names, but I like to check both wikis sometimes, and just in case the song is on the other game and whatnot, and the analysis for this song is the exact same between both games. Granted, the song is pretty much the same since the 2008 content that was lifted from was directly applied to Old School RuneScape, but still. Now, while it is a very interesting experiment and I would say a very interesting cover of Shining, it is not very original either. So, you know what, all things considered, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 A tier. Okay, we're down to 3, wow, what a list. Next up we have Grimly Fiendish. It's a slow-paced, somewhat spooky song. It's an Halloween song that was released for the 2007 Halloween event and reused for the 2014 one in Old School Runescape. It's a fine song, 7 out of 10 A tier. Coil. You want a fast-paced, tense song that makes you feel uneasy? This is the song. The classical tone is, in my opinion, what makes it so good, and it does a better job at making the song feel to a certain degree like alien. Like, this song is probably what made a lot of people have just PTSD in RuneScape for the first time. Zor was, and still is, to a certain degree, a very hard boss that people struggle at, and this song makes you feel that struggle, it makes you feel that anxiety. To a certain degree, at some points in the song, is like the song feels sorry for you and bad that you are struggling. Honestly, I feel that this isn't the type of banger you get from, you know, the very beginning. Like, to a point you sort of have to grow into this song. But honestly, once you do, it's a banger. 9 out of 10 S tier. And lastly, Thrall of the Serpent. This is the slower paced version of the previous song. Since it does play at the pier, it does make sense that this song would, you know, be what you hear before the boss fight song. This song is much better at encapsulating the lament, the sadness of the area. This is also present in Coil, however, with the frantic, or how frantic that song is, you can barely pay attention to it as, you know, your ears are busy and being pulled in other directions. I like this one quite a lot, honestly. This is actually why I appreciate the different composers in RuneScape and the different styles that they bring. Sure, in a way, RuneScape isn't as cohesive in the sound department given how different the soundtracks can sound, but if you're building a world with multiple races and multiple biomes and places, you know, with multiple stories, multiple adventures, I think having a diverse soundtrack is actually a good thing, and, you know, in a way it's kind of unavoidable. People won't work for Jagex forever, composers come and go, and the people that stay change and grow. They become more experienced and their interests and influences change over time. This is why I've heard countless songs, and at this point 1,000 to be precise, and in this case I have heard multiple sad, somber songs, and they still are able to surprise me due to how different the RuneScape composers actually are. Honestly, we're finishing the list with a bang. Thrall of the Serpent is a 9 out of 10 S tier. And that concludes our list. This time we didn't have as many S tier songs, maybe as other parts, as I guess they are becoming a bit rarer. But, you know, overall, way too many A tier songs, B tier songs, mostly on the range of 6, 7. I think that the list here is a bit elusive, if you will, because I think that a lot of the A tier songs actually aren't as A tier, because a lot of them are 7 out of 10, and a lot of B tier songs are 6 out of 10. So I think it, like, this entire list was actually more average, but I think that in terms of consistency, I think it's more consistently solid than a lot of my previous tracks. But yeah, that's it for it. I would just like to say that I am taking a little bit of a break, either a month or 2 long break from the music tier list, so this should come out in March. It's gonna end up come out in 1st of April, which to me is still March, so you know. But yes, April or I guess May won't have a music tier list thing, so we'll be back in either late May, early June for part 6, and then I'll have part 7, and then maybe I'll have part 8 as well, because Old School is releasing a lot of content and they are releasing a lot of songs with it. But yes, if you want to do the tier list, again, link in the description, previous parts, the playlist will be in the description, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.